Hey everybody, this is Mike with BuzzTox, and today we're going to tell you what you need to know about The Mandalorian, the first live-action Star Wars show coming to you on November 12th on Disney+. We're going to highlight some of the imagery we've seen so far, and make some educated guesses about the plot line based on what some of the cast and production team have said so far. The Mandalorian will take place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So this is after the second Death Star has been destroyed by the Rebellion, and the Emperor and the Darth Vader have both died, but before the rise of the New Order. At this time, the Rebellion has been given new life, and the Empire is in chaos with the loss of central leadership. Local governors, admirals, generals, and crime lords are carving up pieces of the galaxy for themselves and would likely be in conflict with one another. At this time, the Rebellion would be attempting to install itself as the New Republic, or New Galactic Council, uniting and integrating the worlds which had previously made up the Old Republic and the Empire. This is a very Game of Thrones kind of scenario happening in the Star Wars universe at this time, and we can see the potential for political intrigue, new alliances, and betrayals between groups and individuals who are vying for leadership in different parts of the galaxy. On a local level, the loss of the relative stability and order of the Empire is likely to cause a rise in violence as local warlords and Imperials fight their own private wars for scraps of the Empire. The trailer shows several scenes in which we see populations caught in the crossfire during a battle. The show is going to star Pedro Pascal, whom you know from Game of Thrones and Narcos. And Jon Favreau says that Pedro Pascal's Mandalorian is a new character in the Star Wars universe, a gunfighter, a bounty hunter, a citizen of the underworld. He flies a gunship called the Razor Crest, shown flying on several types of terrain throughout the trailers, and we also see a scene in which 5 carbonite frozen bounties are being unloaded off of it, presumably from the Mandalorian going around and catching a bunch of guys. And our unnamed bounty hunter wears this Mandalorian armor. Now, the Mandalorians have an extensive history in the Star Wars universe, which has been fleshed out in the different animated series and books and all over the place. It's too much to go through. It's a lot of information, but briefly, we can just say that Mandalorians are a culture of warriors who have in the past been in conflict with the Republic and the Jedi. They live by a strict moral code, putting value on honor, loyalty, and strength. They aren't traditionally Force users like Jedi and Sith, however, their armor was developed to counter and almost mimic Force users, including items like grappling hooks, shield-penetrating blasters, and jetpacks. Mandalorian steel from the home planet of Mandalore is called Beskar, and this steel is also lightsaber proof and very valuable in the Star Wars universe. Pascal has stated that his character is a mysterious lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy. Some might say he has questionable moral character. And he also states that the Mandalorian character is very much built on the iconic presence of the man with no name in the Sergio Leone movies played by Clint Eastwood and the lone samurai in Akira Kurosawa. He's also stated that the show was very much narratively built in that kind of iconic lone gunslinger / sword wielder. From these references, we can assume that the Mandalorian will be playing with the general plot of both Kurosawa's Yojimbo and Leone's A Fistful of Dollars, in which a mysterious, quiet, and dangerous stranger finds himself in a corrupt and crime-ridden town. The town is run by warring gangs who both want the stranger to work for them, and the stranger attempts to manipulate the bosses of these gangs into wiping each other out. These plans get interrupted when the stranger puts himself at risk to protect some innocent people, and as a result, he gets severely beaten. One of the gangs destroys the other while the stranger escapes, but he has to come back into town for a big showdown in order to save someone who he cares about, who's been taken hostage. So we can kind of imagine that this narrative might be played out in similar fashion in The Mandalorian. From the trailers, we know that the Mandalorian is given a bounty hunting job by Greef Karga, played by Carl Weathers, who works as a contact for bounty clients. Carl Weathers himself has stated that at the Star Wars Celebration in Chicago that Greef is the head of the Bounty Hunters Guild, and he hires the Mandalorian to get him a product for the client. Interesting that he uses the word product here, not person. The client is played by Werner Herzog, who narrates the trailers. And we know that the client is a pro-Empire figure who's surrounded by stormtroopers in the trailer. And he wears an Empire-symboled medal, which is reminiscent to the ones given to Han and Luke at the end of A New Hope. And it might be safe to say that the client was a former hero of the Empire, and now he's a possible crime lord who's trying to carve out his own space in the Outer Rim. Herzog himself has stated that the client is a character in whom you cannot trust. I have found it interesting in the scenes in the trailer that the troopers that surround him look very dirty and haggard. You could imagine that they're likely ex-stormtroopers currently being hired out by the pro-Empire client. Furthermore, if this is following the Kurosawa/Leone narrative, then the client will be in conflict with another power holder in the region, that being Moff Gideon, played by Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad. The Moff, or regional governor, will be attempting to affirm the Empire's control within this region of the Outer Rim. Esposito has stated that his character is very, very intelligent. He has risen from the ranks because he has some sense of order, but yet he can be cruel and not withstand fools. He's a traveler. He gets around and knows everything. He continues stating that Gideon was a warden in the universe as a Moff, and he's uncertain if he is essentially good or bad, but he lives by a code of order and ideals of the Empire. In a way, you might call him an underworld character. You may also look at him as a savior, as someone who might bring back some order to the world after it's all collapsed. And it's interesting that everyone says world when they're talking about it. I don't think that in this show we're going to go around to a lot of different parts of the galaxy. It's going to be localized to one specific part, maybe a few worlds within a solar system in the Outer Rim that they're going to be trying to get control over. The Mandalorian's going to find himself caught in the plans of the client and Gideon, and we could imagine that maybe his bounty is for a child or family, perhaps the one shown in the trailer, which seemed to be in danger after a crash landing in water. The Mandalorian, like the man with no name, will follow his own sense of honor to save them, putting himself in a conflict with Gideon and the client. We see another scene with a family in danger during the trailers, and I believe that this is going to be a flashback scene during a droid attack in the Clone Wars. The child in this scene may be the Mandalorian as a child, and we can see why he might be compelled to save those in danger later on in his life after he's had these kind of same experiences and is an innocent person caught in a conflict in which he and his family had no control. Getting away from the plot and talking more about some characters, we're going to see IG-11. This is a bounty hunter droid, the same model as IG-88 shown in Empire Strikes Back. Taika Waititi voices the character, and he's remarked that he's playing him as a very innocent, naive, and direct. He doesn't know about sarcasm, and he doesn't know how to lie. Essentially, he said IG-11 will be like a child with a gun. And we see him partnering up with the Mandalorian in one scene in which they knock down a door together. Other characters include Cara Dune, played by Gina Carano, and she plays a former Imperial shock trooper turned rebellion fighter turned mercenary. She's going to be a very interesting character with a lot of different experience in the Star Wars universe, which she might bring to bear, and she might be involved in different battles in the past between the Empire. Maybe she was on Endor or something like that. We've got Nick Nolte in there, and he's rumored to be Kuil, and this is as a voice actor. And he's an Ugnaught of the same species as the workers on Cloud City that we saw in Empire Strikes Back. He befriends the Mandalorian. He's shown placing his hand on the Mandalorian's shoulder in the trailer, and the two are also shown riding blurgs in one scene, and in another it looks as if the Mandalorian's blurg has died, while Kuil, or however you pronounce his name, is still riding his. Maybe this is because of an ambush during their journey, or maybe it's because the Mandalorian's blurg has died of exhaustion along the way. We also have my favorite comedian, Bill Burr, playing a mercenary or a bounty hunter. He's shown walking in front of a purple Twi'lek, and perhaps she's another mercenary or bounty hunter. Burr's character will have this awesome shoulder blaster apparatus, which we haven't seen yet in the Star Wars universe. Other scenes shown in the trailer show the Mandalorian using a Gatling gun. This also might be a nod to Leone's A Fistful of Dollars, in which there's this awesome scene with a Gatling gun. There's a bar fight scene, probably our first intro to the Mandalorian collecting a bounty, in which he cuts a Quarren in half using the door to the bar, and this is just epic. There's also going to be a fight scene with two Transdoshans. These are reptilian species, first shown with the bounty hunter character Bosk in Empire Strikes Back. Bosk just sat there and didn't move during that movie, so people are probably pretty excited to see those guys fight, even though it's not going to be Bosk, but maybe we'll see him later. There's certainly going to be a lot for longtime Star Wars fans, as well as those who love a good action/adventure show. And I'm glad they're doing it in the show format, so that we here at BuzzTox can continue to talk and theorize with you along the way. Thanks a lot, everyone, and keep watching us here.